Hello, everyone. My name is Melissa Tossetti, and this is,
I'm Kevin Gibbons.
and we are with The Savvy Life. And we have started our show a few minutes early today just to give people a chance to log in as we get close to the top of the hour. And we usually use this time to talk about just kind of some stuff that's going on with us. We could call it our pre-show.
Yep.
And I want to talk about actually a very savvy experience I had this Sunday, and that was to take a baking class. I have talked a bit, I think, on here and written a bit about how much I love to bake. It's one of my relaxing, things I do to relax. Plus, it tastes delicious.
And she's a very good baker.
Thank you, thank you. But what was fun about this particular baking class that I took was it was given by my friend Erica. It's her cousin-in-law, and while she is not like a classically trained baker, she's obsessed with baking. This is something that is just her. I would describe it as being about 1,000 miles beyond it being a hobby. It's something she reads all the time. She's got a technical and a science mind.
Okay.
So which I don't. Somehow you just put the stuff in and it works.
And it works.
But what was fun with her is that it was just three of us in the class that she was teaching, and we had her to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to ask a ton of questions. And if you have ever cooked or baked, you know that the simplest little things can throw off a recipe. And I learned more in that particular session than I think that I've learned in the last 2 decades of just baking on my own. So we talk about how if you didn't grow up next to somebody teaching you how to cook when you were a kid, that isn't an excuse not to seek out the information. And I have talked in the past about you don't necessarily have to go and pay for cooking classes. One of the things that we did was, my friend Geraldine and I, who also participated in the class, we brought lunch, and we had a lovely lunch while we waited for the apple pie to bake, and we made challah bread. It was such a lovely experience, and it was like a little mini vacation. So it was fantastic. Yeah.
What I find really interesting is, as I said, Melissa is a very accomplished baker. She makes really good breads, really good, fabulous brownies and cakes.
Thank you.
So the fact that you were able to get excited and learn so much from a non-professional class, that's really interesting. And the other thing, like you said, the real savvy approach is you didn't take a professional class. You had a friend who took the time to teach you what she knew.
Yeah, and I have, this has been an extraordinary year. I've taken a lot of baking and gardening classes this year. I took a cookie decorating class, which was a gift from my mom, and that was really cool. But yeah, again, just little things like how to, with a pie crust, you're not like squishing the dough to death, but how we did it. It was the best apple pie I've ever had in my life, and it wasn't just the crust; it was the way that we prepped the apples as well. So, I'm traveling this weekend, as you know, because we'll be together with our spouses to clarify. But I can't wait next weekend. I'm going to replicate everything because I want to make sure that I don't lose that. So
one of the things that I find that's often neglected as the difference between taking a class like that and watching a video or something is obviously there's the aspect of asking questions, but there's the other aspect of when you're doing something with the instructor there, the instructor can say, oh, don't do it that way, do it this way, and just correct you, 2 degrees, and that can make all the difference in the world. Whereas you don't get that from a cookbook or watching a video. The instructor will tell you, here's how to do it, but the instructor can't say, oh, you almost have it, you just need to tweak this little bit. That's really crucial.
24 years of martial arts experience. I having been coached and being a coach, I can attest to somebody watching and just making a minor adjustment and it making all the difference in the world. Yeah. So go out and take a baking class.
Yeah, from a friend.
From a friend, yeah. All right, with that, it is the top of the hour, and I'm going to reintroduce myself. My name is Melissa Tossetti.
I'm Kevin Gibbons.
And we are the owners of The Savvy Life. And what The Savvy Life is, name of our company, but it is a way of living in the sense that it's about creating a strong financial foundation while enjoying the journey, and doing that by becoming very purposeful with where you spend your time and where you spend your money. So we spend our days working with individuals and families to help them create spending plans. But the majority of the work that we do is really helping those people to live within their plans. So I'm sorry, it looked like I was interrupting you. No. So we do that, and then we also travel and teach concepts around savvy living, and we have this particular web show. In today's session, what we want to do is we want to introduce you to some of the top tools for savvy living. And as I started prepping for this, I got more and more excited about this particular topic.
Well, it's really interesting because, as you said, we teach this multiple times a month. That's a big part of our business, but we actually never covered them in one of these caffeine video sessions. And I agree, it really is kind of exciting to go do that and actually lay out. Here are, this is really the crux of the savvy life. This and teaser, the next topic, are the two of them are really the crux of the whole concept of the savvy life. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah. So not to hold you in waiting for, or hold you in wait for what it is that we're going to talk about, let's just go. So the number one tool to living a savvy life, or around building and living a savvy life, is to have a reason for wanting to do it. And there's two different aspects of this. So one is a reason, and do you want to go into that?
Well, sure. And the reason is what your ultimate goal is. All right. So you start off with some objective. All right. What do I want to do? I want to change my spending habits so that I can build a strong financial foundation and enjoy the journey. Okay. That's a goal. That's a reason for doing this. It can be a more focused goal of, I want to take a trip to Europe and I need $5,000 in 1 year. Right? So my goal is to save for my trip to Europe, but not be eating peanut butter and ramen the entire time to get there. All right. So again, that's the goal. The goal can be a specific objective, or it can be a lifestyle change that you want to enact.
Correct. Yeah. Here's the deal. This is what we do for a living. And we know for a fact from our own experience and working with clients that saving money just for the sake of saving for most people is not motivating enough to make any changes and to do anything. And besides, there's so much to do out in life that, giving yourself that opportunity to go and do those things this is the way to go. Yeah. So that's tool number one. The second tool is what we do all day long, which is to create a spending plan.
Well, I want to back up there because we did skip over the carrot.
Oh, well, I thought you kind of alluded that the carrot and the reason were along the lines with the travel goal.
Well, I'd like to be a little more specific about that. And that's that you can have a long-term goal, even if it's a travel goal. The way I phrased this to Melissa earlier is you need to do something to satisfy the 6-year-old within you. And that's a little bit facetious, but it actually is really the way that we're motivated. Is you need to have short rewards to keep you going. And so the carrot is the idea of, all right, I'm going to watch my spending. I'm going to enact these habits, and then at the end of the week, I get a little treat, and that just keeps me motivated to keep me going on while I'm doing these things there. So it can be that short term of a goal, or as you said, that short term of a reward, or it can be something like we just talked to, where the trip is the carrot. That's something I'm saving for, and I get to execute it. But so there's two aspects of that. One is more of it may be a more grandiose reason of, I want to live better, I want to live more purposefully. And then the other aspect is, if I do this, I get this good thing. Again, the 6-year-old gets a cookie at the end of the day for being good in the store. You need to satisfy both of those.
Yeah, and I think sometimes there's also a place in between too. So at the end of the week, what your carrot is, and maybe for a lot of people, not everybody can say, hey, I want to go to Europe in a year. So maybe Europe is 2 years from now, but okay, now it feels a little bit of a stretch.
So now you need the carrots to keep going.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's the, hey, I'm going to go on a road trip or going to Vegas, and that's a smaller spend. Yeah. But having that outlined, it is the secret sauce to the work that we do. Yeah. Without a doubt that is. Now the next tool being that spending plan. So look, you have so much money to spend. And again, we work with millionaires, people bringing in $1 million a year. We work with people bringing in, $80,000 a year. That's a finite amount no matter what. You've got to figure out how to make it all work for all the different things that you want to do. So it is very important to have an understanding, not just what your monthly expenses and spending are, so your bills and your spending, but also what the intermittent stuff is.
What happens during the day, because that's where you forget about it, and then you get a surprise, and then that shoots your plan out of the water, unless you put it into your plan.
And most people have, and what we mean by an intermittent expense, I just interrupted myself, is things that are not routine, right? So they're things that like property tax if it's not escrowed. It's things like your clothing, right? That's not something that you're spending all the time. These things, though, I don't know anybody that can go an entire month without some intermittent expense coming up. So you've got to plan for them. You just absolutely have to plan for them. So that spending plan is you're taking your income, however it's coming to you, you're taking your expenses and your spending, and then you're just figuring out how much do you want to allot. It's a spending plan. It is about spending purposefully, not about restriction, right?
But you have to know where it goes.
Yeah. There's got to be some parameters. Exactly. So then the next tool, if you will, is to have some kind of tracking system. This is where we get clients that are like trying to give a cat a bath, right? They're like paws on all sides of the tub.
Nobody wants to track their spending. Well, almost nobody. We actually have had a couple of clients who really, really like it, and they do incredible spreadsheets, and they track every last dime, and
we're talking to
really
you, Alicia.
it's really impressive. But the whole idea is that once you set up that plan, how do you know if you're executing to that plan? Well, the way you know is you have a tracking system that says, here's all the money that comes in, here's all the money going out, here's what's really happening, and then you can compare that to the plan and make sure that you're in alignment. Those tracking systems can be as simple or as complicated as you need to get the results you want.
Exactly. I have two thoughts on that. One is for clients that are overwhelmed by that idea of tracking, all we have them do is track what they want to change. Okay, so they might be tracking just their spending on groceries, dining out, clothes, entertainment, etc. They write it down, they write it in an Excel spreadsheet, doesn't matter, just as long as it's getting tracked. Other thing about this is that it's one thing to track it, it's a whole other thing to actually use that data to make different spending decisions. Lovely couple I was on the phone with earlier today. They have, speaking of somebody who's taken and run with a tracking system, he's got a beautiful system on Google that he set up, but they were only reviewing it once a month, and by then it's too late to make any different decisions. So now they've got a goal where they're going to actually be touching on it every week, every other week, so that they can at least utilize that data to make different decisions if they need to.
I think that's a real key aspect, because if you don't review it on a timely basis to where you can take action, it becomes punishing. You look at the end of the month and you say, well, I blew my plan, bad me. And then
I'm just terrible at money.
Yep. And then you go, out to dinner and have drinks because you're frustrated. And then you start the next month, and at the end of the month, you look at it and go, oh, wow, I blew it again, bad me. So you need to look at it on a regular enough basis so that you can anticipate and say, ooh, I'm a little bit overspent here. How can I do to correct it? Where can I save? You have to look at it with the right feedback. Look at it like driving a car. You don't wait till you go off the road to say, oh, I probably should have turned the steering wheel. All right. You drive down the road, and if you hit one of those little dot bumps that they're getting rid of, that's when you correct. Or you watch the line and you correct as you're going down the road. It's the same thing. Is you have to track with enough sensitivity to make a difference.
This goes back to, we were talking earlier about taking a baking class or martial arts and getting coached. That idea that just handling the dough a little bit different can make all the difference in the world. It's that same idea. They were just missing a step. Well, now they know, and they can, and the course correction is good too. I've also, because, traveling for speaking, running a lot of cars, I've been in some of the newer cars where it's not the steering wheel rattles, but I can't remember what, like there'll be a sound or something when you're starting to go into another lane. And the first time that happened, oh my God, I was wrecked. It was the exact opposite outcome. Anyway, we digress. I digress.
So the next is both targeted savings and having a system for spending. And where this really goes into, really addresses one of Melissa's favorite topics, which is that today handling money has become so much more complicated than it used to be. And so because it's become so much more complicated, we have to become a little bit more sophisticated in how we handle money. So one of the ways of doing that is to have targeted savings. And that simply means I'm saving for that trip to Europe. I'm saving for the car repair that I know is going to happen sometime in the next 8 months. I'm saving for the car registration. We live in California. Vehicle registration is a big expense. I get a little bit jealous when we're doing spending plans for people in other states and I see vehicle registration, $10.
Add a couple zeros and it's California.
So congratulations.
Yeah.
We have to plan for that. So targeted savings just means setting up an allocation of saying, I am saving this amount of money for this purpose. And you can do it in a spreadsheet and just do it, conceptually. You can actually do it with a number of banks that have allow you to have multiple savings accounts and physically put the money there, as physical as moving bits across the internet is. But having those targeted savings so you can clearly see this money's for this purpose, this money's for this purpose, really great clarity. And then the other thing, the flip side of that's for saving the money. The flip side of that is having a system for spending money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're looking at me like
I'm
I
looking
should
at
go
you.
with that.
You
Okay.
should go with that.
Yeah, so the idea behind this is, again, as Kevin mentioned, money is so complicated now, and we're using multiple cards and multiple bank accounts, checking accounts. So it's a matter of sitting down and defining how you are going to spend. And a very common thing you'll see, I'll give a couple scenarios. One might be that if you're partnered with somebody, you're married, you might have a checking account for all of the family bills. And then each of you might have your own checking accounts that you get an allotment and you get to spend out of that, no questions asked, right? And so that might be one system. Another system might be that you have one checking account, but you really like getting points. And so you're going to use one of your credit cards that is going to just have all of your automatic payments on that card. So nothing else is going on that card, just those automatic payments. So you know every month this is exactly how much money is going is going to go on that card. Easy to understand. The other credit card you're going to use for all your spend, your groceries, right? So now you compartmentalize and you're not having to, to figure out. It's just so much easier. So just a system. And again, I'm a mad fan of systems, not from it's more work. It's the opposite of that. By having a system, you're freeing up your energy, you're freeing up your time, making things so much more simple for you.
So what you're really doing is you're creating multiple pools for saving money and for spending money. And the beauty of it is that you don't have to go searching for how much money you spent on different things at the end of the month or whenever you get your statement. It's very easy for you to say, oh, I spent this amount of money on auto-related expenses because they're on that credit card. I spent this amount of money on dining because it's on this credit card. Now, there are budget tracking software packages out there, like Quicken, You Need a Budget, Mint, that do that, and you can give it categories and they'll go ahead and do this. But by doing it with the credit cards, it really drives home to you how much money you're spending in each of those categories. If you go pull up your credit card statement in the middle of the month, you can see what charges have been put on those cards. It gives you just an easy way to keep track and to get some type of sensitivity on your spending. If you keep pulling out this credit card 6 times in a week, it's like, I'm putting a lot of money on this, for this purpose here. Why am I doing that? Well, if it's only for one purpose, you can feel that better. So it just helps to simplify the complexity of all the different ways we can spend money.
And you nailed it, though. You've got to keep it simple. Don't create this system that is going to be so complex that you need a map for it. You've got to keep it simple. The more you can simplify your financial life, the better off and more successful you're going to be. Yeah. So the next one is a tool that we have been talking about for a decade now, and I can say that authoritatively, and that is a spending book. Okay. And a spending book is simply a small notebook that you can keep with you at all times, and you're going to write down the things that you want to buy. Okay. I have a confession. One of the things that I've always said is a spending book isn't where you want to keep your grocery list and things like that. Well, here's my confession. I actually do write my grocery list at the beginning. Like tomorrow I have to go to Safeway and buy ice. So my front part of my spending book I use for the more day-to-day stuff. But the back of my spending book is actually where I'm truly using it for its purpose. So for example, my friend Jana's birthday is coming up, and there's a picture that I want to give her for her birthday, and I need a 4x6 frame for that. So I'm writing the details of it. We go to a lot of used bookstores, and so I've got my eye out for the Vintage Tea Party book by Angel Adoree. To make sure, because I want to pick that up. For those of you that watch Escape to the Chateau, which is a British TV show, DIY show, you know exactly who that is and why I want that so badly. But it's just the idea of it is it creates a purposefulness around where you want to spend your money. And it reminds you, this is where I want to spend my money, not on the first aisles when I walk into a retail store.
So as an analog, we have a young friend who has the benefit or misfortune of being surrounded by a bunch of people older than her who are movie aficionados. And so we are constantly telling her, oh, you got to go see this, you got to go rent this movie, you got to go watch this movie. This movie is great. So there are 4 people that are about my age that had been bombarding this young lady with movies that she needs to see for the past 7 years. And we're very prolific movie watchers. She cannot possibly keep all those movie titles in her head. So she's written down all the movies that we've recommended to her because she's got a very long list that keeps getting longer. The reason that she does that is because she can't remember all the movies that we've suggested. The spending book is the same thing.
Same idea.
I want to buy these things, but I see something and say, oh, I really want that. 3 months from now, am I going to remember when I'm walking through a store and that thing might be for sale, like a used bookstore, or my wife and I do a lot of antique shopping at flea markets and antique stores? Oh, that's the thing I'm looking for? I'm not going to remember that. If you have it written down, then it helps to focus what you want to spend on, and it reminds you of the things that you thought were important, so that
right.
And especially for, like you said, with your friend and the picture frame, gifts for people is, if you can start looking for gifts for people months ahead of time, it reduces your stress.
Yeah, it's things like that. I've got the purchases that I need to make for clothing purchases. The other thing that I use my spending book for is I write down the experiences that I want to have. And what I mean by that, excuse me, is we live in California and we complain about, the cost of living here, but there are some amazing places to see. And if I find read about a restaurant, a winery, whatever it might be, I make sure to put it in my spending plan because if I have time, I want to spend that time purposefully as well. So we write a lot about this. If you want to check it out, I'll link articles to the specifics about how to create your own spending book. I cannot emphasize how powerful that is enough.
So along that, one of the things that spending book does is it helps you with planning. Another thing that really is crucial as a savvy tool is having a calendar. And it sounds so basic, but we will overspend because we're in a panic, we're out of time. It's like, oh crap, I didn't realize that this is happening now. I need to go out and buy this right now. Having the calendar lets you plan and make your purchases at a more even pace. You can spread the purchases out to match your income stream over several paychecks if you have to, so you're not overburdening your own system. And it helps you smooth out the flow of your own life and reducing stress, and it is really critical. One of the things that I'll say for that this is something I've always used calendars at different sources, but Melissa really turned me on to really making use of the year at a glance calendars, because I cannot tell you how many times I got my calendar planned out, everything is going great, and I go from October 31st to November 1st and say, crap, look at all these things that are happening November 5th, 6th, and 7th that I hadn't even thought about. So the advantage of the year at a glance calendar is that you don't get surprised at the turn of the calendar of the month. And as I look at the year calendar on Melissa's wall, she already has the 2020 calendar up. Okay, you put that up, I think, in August.
Because we were booking speaking engagements into the next year already. Yeah. And speaking of getting caught, I will never forget, I missed Halloween 2000, I think it was like 2015, because of that exact thing. And I may have even had the wall calendar up, which is really embarrassing. But yeah, I booked a speaking engagement for November 1st. Not really thinking through that I would have to travel on October 31st. Yeah, so
she has a young son, and so missing Halloween is not a very good thing. Yeah. So having a calendar just so that you can plan not get surprised,
Yeah.
and pace yourself.
Yep.
Huge.
Yes, exactly. We should actually write at nauseum about how powerful that calendar is. So a wall calendar and an online calendar. And the other thing about that is, and this is very important, which this is also a tool, which is the word no, or the word, if somebody invites you to something, what we strongly suggest is just simply to say, I need to check my calendar. And if they say, oh, well, your phone's right there, it's like, no, I need to check against my wall calendar. It gives you just a bit of a cooling off period. It's you don't have to make a decision in the spur of the moment, and you can, make a decision at your leisure, or compare it, or truly check your calendar to see if you can make it or not.
A couple other tools that are very useful. A family cookbook or a meals list, and we were talking about this earlier. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have, the old-fashioned leather-bound cookbook with recipes handed down from your great-grandmother. What we're really talking about is you need to have a list of go-to meals that, in a pinch, you can create without any effort, without any thought, that you know what the ingredients are, so you can be sure that you have those ingredients stocked in your house for any time, so that you can prepare nutritious, tasteful, tasty meals for your family without overexerting yourself. When those times come about where you're just tired, you're exhausted, a wreck of a day, go to your standby recipe and make this food, and your family can eat and make that work. So having that is huge, because what that prevents you from ordering takeout or going to a restaurant and ordering a meal that you really may not like, but it's just like, I've got to get food into my family somehow. So in order to avoid those situations, have a list of go-to meals with ingredients and how to prepare them that are relatively easy.
Yeah, even if it's just 5 things, because it's so easy for us to get into that food rut. Yeah. And then from there, one of the things I'll elaborate on, and this is, again, the meals list is the simplest form. If you want to take that to the next level, and this I stole from my mom, my very savvy mom, is that when she tries a recipe, she'll print the recipe. If she likes the recipe, she 3-hole punches it and puts it into her binder, and that's a keeper. Yeah. So she has a system. So her
prioritizing.
It's exactly her purposefulness too. Her cookbook isn't a bunch of just printed out sheets in there, or she's not wasting her time, again, being purposeful by trying to find that recipe that she cooked that one time. And
these are the good ones.
Exactly. So that system. It seems like such a minor thing, but it's huge. It's impactful. Yeah. So the other one, we've got 2 more tools and then we'll wrap this particular topic up. But the next one is the library. Now, if you are a Doctor Who fan, you know what a powerful tool the library is. There's a famous scene where he talks about weapons. They need weapons at the end of the world, and Doctor Who's like, you're in a library. You've got every weapon that you need. But the reason that I say that specifically about the library, we work with a lot of folks that are massive readers, and that is fantastic. We're authors. By no sense of the word are we saying to stop spending money on books. Yeah. But here's the deal. Our library here in Redwood City, we can check out up to 50 books. Okay. When I go in the library, I'm just grabbing stuff. I'm grabbing stuff on everything from baking and gardening and DIY around the house, mystery novels, classics, right? I am grabbing stuff that I may read just a couple pages and go, no, I don't want that. Or I'm going to dig even deeper, and it's going to open up a information to me or stories to me that I wouldn't have otherwise if I was just being a little bit more systematic about buying books online, or going into a bookstore and buying books. So it's just the library is a tool for you to broaden your knowledge.
Yeah, there's virtually no starting cost associated with it. There's no commitment cost. If you're going to a bookstore or online and buying books, you think twice about buying books. Well, do I really need to put this on my shelf? Do I really want to? Am I really going to read this? I'm kind of interested, but I'm not that interested. I don't really want to spend $20. But your point is that it doesn't cost you anything. You can check it out. You can read it. If you like it, you can keep reading it. If you don't like it, you put it down and you take it back to the library the next time you go there. And there's no cost to you.
Exactly.
So that lets you really expand your horizons.
Yeah. And There's been a couple of authors that I stumbled on here or there. I'm just remembering that I've gone in and I've, tried one of their books, and all of a sudden now this is awesome. I've got a new mystery writer that I'm going to read all, 50 books, but otherwise I might have kind of skipped out and maybe not have read it. So yeah, it's powerful. Yeah. And then the last tool, and there are many, many more tools, but this is what we wanted to touch on today. The very last tool is a water bottle. It sounds trite. It sounds like, of course, we know that we should be using a water bottle for many different reasons, but very much like, putting money into savings or tracking your spending, we know that we should be doing these things, but we are not. If you are still spending money on bottled water for your home and on a daily basis, the amount of money that you can save simply by purchasing a water filter and using a water bottle is huge. The impact on the environment is, I don't even need to go into that detail. But I mean, we're talking about the amount of money saved on, if you are using bottled water at home, we're talking about the amount of a road trip. Easily, it's like a mini vacation that you can
depending
save.
on how much water you drink, it's easily thousands of dollars a year.
Yeah,
I mean, it's insane, and there's no reason for it. So it's just what that really, for me, with a water bottle is. And I don't want to dwell on this too long, but the water bottle is really a symptom of knee-jerk spending. People just do that because, well, I saw it on the web or I heard on the radio that we should be drinking lots of water, and everybody tells me the municipal water is bad, so I'm just going to do what everybody says, and I'm going to buy bottled water. Fortunately, that really was the thing about 10 years ago. It really is changing now. People are becoming more money conscious, more environmentally conscious. There's a lot of controversy around bottled water in many different areas. We're not going to get into that, but just the whole idea from a savvy standpoint, don't buy things that are available for free or easy, easy alternatives. Yeah. That's really just the whole thing.
And one last thing I'll say on this is, if I am traveling, if I am, at a place where I'm traveling and I drank what I had on me, am I going to buy a bottle of water? Absolutely. So we're not saying never ever buy it, but we're just saying that, be mindful. Yeah.